Dear students and friends, the title of the lecture today is Environmental Challenges vis-a-vis Coal Mining and Burning. That means coal mining and coal burning. Module 1. Methane is a gas formed as a part of the process of coal formation. When coal is mined, methane is released from the coal seam and the surrounding disturbed rock strata. Methane can also be released as a result of natural erosion or faulting. The methane content in coal seam generally increases the deeper the seam exists and also with its age. As the depth of the coal seam increases, so does the pressure level. This in turn reduces the level of permeability, causing methane to be much more tightly bound to the coal and surrounding rock strata. Underground mining can therefore produce substantially greater levels of methane than surface mining. In fact, underground mines account for the overwhelming majority, up to 90%, of all methane emissions from the coal sector. When coal is mined underground, this methane not only becomes a potent source of pollution and accident by way of explosions, but also it adds to the ventilation cost. Furthermore, it adds to the volume and quantity of GHG. GHG is greenhouse gases when exhausted from the underground in the surface atmosphere. Thermal power plants are the single largest stationary source of pollution in any country. The toxins these coal-fired power plants produce severe damage to both human health and the environment. This in turn lowers the quality of life. Additionally, it also exerts severe adverse impacts on the wildlife, aquatic life, plants and trees, etc. Most discussed impact in the recent times is the climate change due to burning of large quantities of coal in the thermal power plants. Coal-fired thermal power plants are responsible for release of over 85% of total global carbon dioxide emissions, a prime contributor to global warming. Besides carbon dioxide, other major ingredients in the polluted air due to coal burning include sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, carbon dioxide and fly ash. Given this, the mining as well as burning of coal are increasingly gaining the attention of all concerned, being not only as a prime energy resource, but also because of host of environmental challenges offered due to the mining and burning of the coal. Module 2. This module consists of description of atmospheric impact of the gases and fly ash. Let us discuss the impacts one by one. To start with, sulfur dioxide SO2. Sulfur dioxide is emitted during burning coal and other fossil fuels, of course. While burning, the coal converts into acid gases, that is sulfuric gases and sulfur particulate matter. These gases and particulate matter are emitted in the atmosphere. It is a major causation of acid rains, as will be described later. The health effects of these emissions on human beings include airway irritation, heart rhythm destabilization, asthma attacks and etc. Number 2 is nitrogen oxide, popularly known as NOx. It is a main ingredient in acid rain. And number 2, ozone smog. Acid rain. Acid rain or acid deposition occurs when sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide react with water and oxygen in the atmosphere to form acidic compounds, most commonly sulfuric and nitric acids. These acidic compounds then either mix with natural precipitation and fall to the earth as acid rain, or remain dry and then settle to the ground. Acid rain destroys ecosystems, including streams and lakes, by changing their delicate pH balance, making them unable to support life. Acid rain can destroy forests, devastate plant and animal lives, and at times it may also adversely affect the man-made monuments and buildings to effectively destroy natural and historical treasures. Number 2 is the ozone smog. The ozone smog is formed at ground level when sunlight mixes with nitrogen oxides and hydrocarbonaceous vapors emitted by power and mining plants. It contributes to airway irritation, coughing, wheezing, asthma attacks and immune suppressions. Number 3 is the carbon dioxide. Coal-fired electric power plants comprise the single biggest source of carbon dioxide emissions in the world. Burning of coal releases carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and it is needless to reaffirm that carbon dioxide is the largest source of greenhouse gases GHG in the world. Currently, there is almost 30% more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than at the commencement of the Industrial Revolution. Furthermore, we are well on the way to doubling the carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere during this century itself. So amazing. However, coal-fired power plants have the highest output rate of carbon dioxide per unit of electricity among all fossil fuels. Now, figure 1 will illustrate the release of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere by various sources and also its safe disposal sites. Now, the figure 1 illustrates that there is a mining shaft which is mining coal from the underground deposit. Then there is an open cast mine, coal which is lying beneath the surface of earth, and thereafter you can also see the mining of fuel offshore. All these 3 units, they are mining fossil fuels and they are transporting the fossil fuel to a coal or gas fired power plant which delivers carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. If it is delivering the carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, it will be dangerous because, as already explained, the carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. So, we need to capture this gas at the plant and we have to dispose it at the safe sites. Illustrated in the figure, you can see that a pipeline is bringing the carbon dioxide which has captured in the thermal power plant or gas fired power station. It is being transmitted through the pipeline in the unminable coal seams, in the saline aquifers, and also the third point is the depleted oil and gas fields. Number 2 is the fly ash. Fly ash primarily comes from coal fired electricity generating power plants. These power plants grind coal to powder fineness before it is burnt. Fly ash, the mineral residue produced by burning coal, is captured from the power plant and it is exhausted and collected for use. Fly ash is a fine glass powder recovered from the gases of burning coal during the production of electricity. These micron sized earth elements consist primarily of silica, alumina and iron. Coal fired power plants using pulverized coal or lignite as fuel generate large quantities of fly ash as a byproduct, with the increase in commissioning of several super thermal power plants with large capacity and with the increasing use of low grade coal of high ash content. The amount of penetration of ash from them is increasing at exponential rates. This poses serious ecological problems. Most of the ash generated from the power plants is disposed of in the vicinity of the plant as a waste material, covering several hectares of valuable land. Looking at the nuisances posed by fly ash, there exists an emergent need for its safe disposal and effective utilization. The properties of fly ash depend on several variables such as coal source, degree of pulverization, design of boiler units, loading and firing conditions, handling and storage methods, etc., etc. In an industrial context, fly ash usually refers to ash produced during combustion of coal. It includes substantial amounts of silicon dioxide, both amorphous and crystalline, and calcium oxide. In earlier times, the fly ash was generally released into the atmosphere, but pollution control equipment mandated in recent decades requires its capture. The fly ash is generally stored at coal power plants or placed in the landfills. It is often used as a pozzolan to produce hydraulic cement or hydraulic plaster, or as a partial replacement of Portland cement in concrete production. At present in India, the focus is on demonstration of coal ash release technologies such as fly ash characterization, its agricultural related studies and applications, construction of ash ponds and dams, roads and embankments, and also for reclamation of ash ponds for human settlement, underground minefields, etc. Only a small quantity of the total ash produced is utilized in concrete brick making, soil stabilization treatment, etc. The bulk utilization of ash is yet to begin in the fullest swing. Number 3, remedial measures. What are the remedial measures to overcome the challenges which are posed to the atmospheric conditions by these gases? So, let us discuss one by one each of the gas and how to overcome the threats which are posed by these gases. Number 1 is sulfur dioxide. Flue gas desulfurization (FGD) systems are used to remove sulfur dioxide. Wet scrubbers are the most widespread method and can be up to 99% effective. A mixture of limestone and water is sprayed over the flue gas. Flue gas is the gas which is exhausted from the power plants. So, this flue gas has to be mixed, and this mixture reacts with the sulfur dioxide to form gypsum, a calcium sulphate, which is removed and used in the construction industry. Next is nitrogen oxide, NOx. NOx reduction methods include the use of low NOx burners. These specially designed burners restrict the amount of oxygen available in the hottest part of the combustion chamber where the coal is burnt. This minimizes the formation of the gas and requires less post combustion treatment. NOx burners reduce NOx emission by 40%. Further, reburning reduces it to almost 70%, followed by selective catalytic reduction to finally clean the flue gases from NOx up to 90%. Next is particulates emissions, and how do we overcome the problems which are posed by the particulate emissions. So, in this, electrostatic precipitators can remove more than 99% of particulates from the flue gas. The system works by creating an electrical field to create a charge on particles which are then attracted by collection plates. Other removal methods include fabric filters and wet particulate scrubbers. Electrostatic precipitators in conjunction with fabric filters are capable of removing almost 99% of fly ash from the gases. Also, coal washing reduces emission of ash and sulfur dioxide. Now we discuss the innovative clean coal technologies which are coming up very fast in order to clean these gases and provide the alternative technologies which may remediate these gases. So, first is the sequestration. What is sequestration? Sequestration refers to capture and disposal of liquid carbon dioxide into deep geological strata. The potential disposal sites are depleted oil and gas fields, unminable coal seams, deep saline aquifers. It entails the technology of capture of carbon dioxide from the flue gases and store them into the deep saline aquifers. It can also serve the oil and gas industry for enhanced oil and gas recovery from oil wells. It comes under the domain of carbon capture and storage, which is known as CCS. Researchers have lately explained certain risk factors associated with sequestration. The technique may render the rocks very weak and poses the threat of sudden eruption in disastrously large volume. For effective sequestration, rock should be permeable and very strong. The figure 2 shows the carbon dioxide capture and sequestration. In this figure, we can see that coal or any other biomass or fossil fuel is being sent to the industry for electricity generation, cement steel refineries, etc., and ethanol plant. All of these industries, they generate huge amount of atmospheric carbon dioxide. Now, this atmospheric carbon dioxide, small amount of this carbon dioxide is subjected to terrestrial sequestration by the vegetation. However, a large amount of carbon dioxide is still, if it is released in the atmosphere, it will be a challenge to the atmosphere. So, this carbon dioxide capture plant has to capture the carbon dioxide and also it has to dispose it safely. So, what are the disposal sites? These disposal sites are also shown in the figure. Some of the industrial units may be requiring carbon dioxide, and so a portion of the captured carbon dioxide can be sent for the industrial uses and food product industry, etc. Another part of the carbon dioxide has been shown to be sequestered. This carbon dioxide which has been sequestered can raise the oil from the depleted oil wells, and this is known as enhanced oil recovery. So, sequestration can be positively used for the enhancement of oil recovery. Another part of the carbon dioxide can be used for displacing the methane from the coal seam, and the method is known as enhanced coal bed methane recovery. And still, the carbon dioxide can be stored inside the deep saline formations, which are also known as deep saline aquifers. So, these are the possible sequestration sites for the captured carbon dioxide. Next technology is underground coal gasification. The underground coal gasification implies conversion of coal into gas with or without entering the coal seam by mining and non-mining methods. The gas can be sent by pipelines to the industrial units for energy generation. Non-mining method, as illustrated in figure 3, gains the prevalence because of elimination of drilling, blasting or cutting, loading supporting and transporting costs. It is very environment friendly since it entails minimum land, water, air and ecological pollution. Method is, however, very restrictive in nature and normally suited for low grade subbituminous and lignite deposits with high hydrogen to carbon ratio, higher volatility and high coal plasticity. Now, figure 3. This figure 3 shows the non-mining method of underground coal gasification, wherein you can see the injection well and the gas offtake well, and the air or oxygen or air enriched with oxygen or hot steam can be sent through the injection well. It will oxidize the coal in a controlled manner and the gas would be formed and coal will be converted into gas, and this gas can be brought out to the surface from the offtake well and it could be directly used without cutting or breaking of the coal, and that is the technique of gasification, where we convert the coal directly into gas without using any drilling, any blasting or any transportation of coal. Next is coal bed methane extraction, which is gaining popularity nowadays in our country as well. A range of technologies are available to recover methane from coal, and these can be broken down into 3 categories. Coal bed methane extraction is number 1. In this technique, methane is recovered from the unmined coal seams. The coal seams may be mined in the future, but this is largely dependent upon geological factors such as coal depth and quality. Number 2 is abundant mine methane, AMM. Methane recovered from mines that have been abandoned following the completion of mining operations. Significant amounts of methane may remain trapped in the mine or may continue to be emitted from the openings. This methane has to be tapped, and this is known as abundant methane mining. Then the number 3 is coal mine methane, CMM. Methane is recovered during the mining activities as the coal is in the process of being extracted and thus emitting significant quantities of the gas. Next is coal liquefaction. This technique is used to convert coal into oil. Successful trials were made in Germany and then in Africa. However, commercial viability is still not ascertained. Specific liquefaction technologies generally fall into 2 categories: direct liquefaction DCL and indirect liquefaction ICL. Indirect liquefaction processes generally involve gasification of coal to a mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen, popularly known as syngas, and then using a process such as Fischer-Tropsch to convert the syngas mixture into liquid hydrocarbons. On the contrast, direct liquefaction processes convert coal into liquids directly without the intermediate step of gasification by breaking down its organic structure with application of solvents or catalysis in a high pressure and temperature environment. Most coal liquefaction processes are associated with significant carbon dioxide emissions resulting from requirement of heat and electricity. However, synthetic fuels produced by coal liquefaction process tend to be cleaner than naturally occurring crudes, as heteroatom, example sulfur, compounds are not synthesized or are excluded from the final product. So, here is the time for the conclusion, and let me conclude. Following are the main conclusions which may be drawn from the present work. Number 1, coal is absolutely important fossil fuel which occupies the center stage of global natural energy resources. Coal and coal mining industry worldwide shall retain its supremacy in energy generation and other industrial applications in future for almost 150 years. As for now, number 2, a host of atmospheric challenges are brought forward by coal mining because of release of entrapped methane during mining and release of carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, NOx and fly ash during the burning of coal in the thermal power plants. Number 3, to combat the challenges, the need of emerging and innovative technologies is very important vis-a-vis the global concern on environment and climate change. Number 4, innovative technologies offer great potential in combating the deleterious impact of sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, fly ash and particulate matters. Number 5, the role of emerging sequestration technique for carbon capture and storage, enhanced CBM extraction and enhanced oil recovery may be promising. Number 6, CBM extraction technology is successful in many countries. However, the gas makeup vis-a-vis the capital investment in drilling gas drainage wells need to be examined very carefully. Nevertheless, this technology holds great potential to address to the global warming concerns attributable to methane emission during mining operations. Thank you very much.